Right, Philip, I would like to know your definition of personal development, please.
Could be personal development, all sorts of different areas, KJ.
All right, I want to know your specific scenario of where you found you're personally developing yourself.
I hear you. I sense you're going in a specific direction here.
Yes,
You're looking for an angle.
I am looking for a little angle. You just spent a week over in Melbourne. Apparently it was personal development. It sounded like there was a lot of golf played in the Sandbelt, but you're also at a Turf Managers Conference. Can you give us a little rundown on what the personal development maybe you found and then what happened over there?
There wasn't too much personal development on the golf course. I must admit, golf was a bit rusty, but it was good. Got over there with Harry from Middlewai and Blair from the Mount. We played a little bit of golf before the conference down in the Mornington Peninsula, and wanted to see a couple of golf courses down there hadn't seen before. And whenever you're playing golf courses nowadays, I'm always kind of like, oh, look at that bunker. Oh, look at that tee. Oh, look at that turf. You're always just seeing how different places, different architects have done stuff, how different greenkeepers and maintenance staff are maintaining different surfaces, and how the functionality of clubs is, whether there's things to learn from in all sorts of different areas. And so that was good. We played a couple of rounds down there, played the new Huntingdale course, which I'd played the Aussie Masters on a number of times back in the 90s, early 2000s, and they've gone through a recent renovation with OCM there, so it was fun to get back and have a look and see what they've been up to. Then we had the Turf Managers Conference in town, in the city. Man, the conference centre in Melbourne is massive. It is absolutely massive.
How many people were there?
I think there's about 600 that were there throughout the course of the week, but then they had day people that came daily.
Right.
And so, maybe 800 to 1,000, something like that, of people that were in the conference, and we were just a blip. It was several other conferences going in this conference centre at the same time. And so, great to connect with a whole heap of different people in the industry, from those in the trade sector to other superintendents, turf managers from stadiums as well.
Oh, right.
And quite a Kiwi contingent over there this year. A lot of greenies over there this year, which probably due to no Turf Managers Conference in New Zealand, but great opportunity for them to get out and connect, network a little bit, but also learn a little bit off of what the brothers across the ditch are doing. Yeah. Our golf markets are so connected, being so far from everywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
But, there's a fair bit of attention on Australasia at the moment, so people are knocking off New Zealand and Australia at the same time.
Yeah, so I think it does feel connected internationally, but it doesn't feel as connected domestically, or when I say domestically, in the South Pacific, between New Zealand and Australia. It doesn't feel like there's actually probably as much connection there.
Probably better.
As it could be.
Probably better than that's been in the past. And I think there've been superintendents that have really driven that from different courses in Australia and in New Zealand. They've driven that connection and shared that connection with a number of other people across the industry. We had a great morning with Richard Forsyth, who's signing off on 18 years, 20 years or something at Royal Melbourne.
Wow.
And going back to Metropolitan, and he hosted a small group out at Royal Melbourne, one of the first mornings there.
Also, sidebar on that, what a greenkeeper's shed that is.
It's a small hangar, isn't it? No? It's a small
that
hangar.
is a greenkeeper's shed, that one right there.
Would not be out of place at Auckland Airport.
No, it wouldn't be. Or even Melbourne Airport.
Yeah, pretty impressive facilities there. And it was great to, Richard had one of the talks at the conference about preparing for the Australian Open, and I had a chat to him afterwards, and I says, "Man, you just described the high performance working environment for any industry, right?" And it was pretty impressive. And the the other chats that were that really interested me that were there were the all the superintendents from the national. Lee Yanna, the director of grounds or head superintendent or whatever his title is. We've caught up with Lee a little bit over the last few years at a few of his courses, and he had all of his supers present on various different tournaments they've prepared for, and then the renovation at Long Island, where they've got 3 different routings within the one 18-hole footprint.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so that's so that was pretty cool to get out there and have a walk around with Lee a bit later in the week. Tim Warren from Glenelg Golf Club was also a really interesting presentation. They had a golf course renovation and redesign project over the last few years that they largely did in-house. And so that's on a totally different scale than the Royal Sydney redo that that Adam, the superintendent there, presented on, which was, let's just say they spent multiple millions on that. But Royal Sydney has been transformed. We were over there a couple of months ago, and feels like Sandbelt Golf has been brought to Sydney.
What were you saying, the parcel site there too? It's tiny, isn't it?
They're sitting on 42, 43 hectares as well.
And does it feel that small?
It doesn't feel enormous, but it feels spacious.
Right.
And a huge ecological project where, you're in the, pretty leafy suburbs, eastern suburbs of Sydney, and where Steve Marsden used to be the superintendent.
Correct, yes.
Way back 12 years ago, Steve said he started the golf course renovation conversation with the club. Adam used to be his 2IC and worked for him. He's now the superintendent and carried out the project with Gil Hance and his team over the last few years. And yeah, pretty impressive. They removed a whole heap of trees that were surplus to requirement and kind of choked a lot of the corridors. But 500,000 native plants have been put back in the ground.
A few sore backs out there.
25, 26 hectares of turf was laid by the team at Royal Sydney.
Wow.
Back down.
That makes it feel pretty measly at Muriwai now.
You only put down a couple hundred squares last week. You're right.
Yeah, righto.
So, look, there's, getting around and hearing from all these different guys that have gone through these different projects. If there's just one thing we could take away from Royal Sydney, or there's one thing you take away from Royal Melbourne and bring back to the clients we're working with here, then that's good personal development, KJ. Personal development.
We've got a long-winded answer as to what personal development looks like.
There's a little bit of personal development after the sun went down too, mate. Conversations with guys.
I heard there's a few conversations that you probably don't want to reiterate. But
hey, look,
as like you say, it's personal development.
Happens on tour.
Exactly.
Stays on tour.
Exactly. Was there any conversations that you were quite surprised by? You weren't necessarily, obviously the golf side of things, learning from supers was very obvious, but was there anybody that came up that was talking way out of left field or on something that you were not expecting that was pretty exciting?
It was combined with the managers as well. The managers conference was going on at the same time, and the buzzword in all industries at the moment is the impacts of AI. And there was a presentation there on how golf clubs in general can use the tools of AI to help drive some efficiency. That was super interesting. The other side of that is that used incorrectly or abused is that it can be detrimental too. And so I think that's probably that's not new news. That's probably everyone's
it's definitely
delicately dipping their toe in the water and going, okay, well, that's made that presentation a whole heap easier to put together. There's
has it got the numbers right?
Industry data that it can be aggregated pretty quickly, all those sorts of things, but then you've got to double check those. Is that applicable to us? This information, it's you're aggregating all of this industry-wide information, you're then putting your data into
Exactly.
that, and so is there
Putting it
sensitive
into
stuff
sort of
that you don't
an
want
open
a
ether
whole heap of
that
other
could
people.
be.
So, that was an interesting talk. There's a couple of others that were talking about the general golf industry. The guy that kicked off the conference had an interesting story about developing the Thank You Water and brand, and that's just that persistence to carry on, just when everything seems like it's steep and everyone doesn't really want to, or likes your idea but doesn't want to buy into it, and so they've managed to grow their business now and have had a pretty steadfast mission and vision of where they were going, and stuck to it. And so it was interesting. Liz Ellis, the former Australian Diamonds netball captain, she spoke about high performance, and
Right, so it was really a high performance focused.
There's a whole heap of different speakers that kind of gave you a pretty good rounded feel for little things you could pluck away and apply to either our business or different golf clubs' businesses around the country here. Not all just talking about turf.
That's cool. Cool. I wanted to bring it back to the personal development on the golf course. Would you agree that the Sandbelt is kind of the mecca of golf in the South Pacific?
Yeah, it kind of feels that way, doesn't it? There's a few different golfing meccas around the world. Probably Long Island is one of them. Around London is another. Obviously, the golf in Scotland and Ireland is pretty awesome as well. But then in Melbourne, if you want awesome golf, you probably don't need to travel more than 5, 6, 7 Ks to get world class golf at every course you play at. So it's pretty special over there, and there's certainly a lot to learn from Sandbelt golf, and we've got some opportunities in New Zealand to
that was going to be my
take a few of those concepts and ideas over there and transform them to New Zealand and see how they go on the ground here. Yeah.
So you think you could bring sort of a piece of that to New Zealand, and like I was saying before, obviously New Zealand and Australia's kind of getting lumped together on the international sort of market, but almost now get even more specific of there could be quite a key simulation between the Sandbelt and New Zealand as well.
Yeah, probably not. It's site specific because Sydney and Brisbane don't have Sandbelt golf. I mean, Adelaide have a totally different feel to sand-based golf than in the Sandbelt, and there's a whole heap of golf around Melbourne that's not on the Sandbelt that's completely different to those courses that are just on the Sandbelt. So, it's not probably don't want to get too carried away and go just because it's cool there, we should do it here. It's site specific,
right? Taking the elements that can be transferred, but also making sure that the course stays authentic to itself. Yeah,
probably encouraging people to keep on doing what's best for them on their course, as opposed to going just because you've seen it on telly or just because it's cool over there doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do on your course.
Cool. I'm looking forward to what the next personal development potentially could be.
Bit of personal development next week probably is watching a little bit of the Open at Royal Birkdale.
Yes.
Bit of prime time golf in New Zealand because it kicks off. The first tee time's usually about 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning or something like that. So you flick the old telly on there, sit down with the TV dinner, and be interesting to see how Foxy and Dan play Royal Birkdale.
Yeah, so let's go into that then. What do you reckon your picks are? What's your picks for the week? What are we feeling?
The guy called Scheffler's usually pretty consistently up around the top of the leaderboard.
He did send me a Twitter link or something like that showed all the guys who have finished inside the top 10 in all the majors this year, and Scotty's rankings are pretty high.
Yeah, Birkdale's about as American a style golf course as it comes on the open rotor. A lot of holes that play in the valleys and greens that are forced carries to get to, certainly with the par threes. We've got a couple of new holes in play this year, so looking forward to seeing how they play. 2017.
Speed's
I
not
remember being
necessarily
there.
going to have as...
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that 13th hole plays. The range has been adjusted and the short game area is bigger and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that was pretty fun being there on the ground that week. We had a golf tour group with Elite Golf Tours over there that year. And yeah, Spieth was pretty impressive. He was kind of in the middle of his little tear on major championships at the time. He's a little ways away from that at the moment, it feels. Might be able to draw a little bit of inspiration. Rory's going to be there or thereabouts, isn't he? And then there's probably a whole heap of guys that are sitting in the wings. Oberg feels like he's going to win something big at some stage here. Victor feels like he's playing himself back into Nick.
He does.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not many guys that say they've beaten Scotty Scheffler in a playoff.
No, not in recent times. And so...
Or beating him coming down the stretch.
Yeah, going to be interesting. Really interesting. More than anything, I kind of enjoy just seeing links golf on telly. You don't get to see too much of that nowadays. So
I remember talking about a concept with you a while ago about how tennis has its different court seasons, right? You've got hard court, you've got clay court, and you've got grass court. Do you reckon golf should kind of have, there's different styles, there's not necessarily different court, but different sort of seasons of when the golf should be maybe played a little bit more like this?
We've kind of had that opportunity, and I think people have talked about that quite a bit in recent years. And maybe that's not too far away with this potential changing of the PGA Tour calendar schedule. It seems like every tour around the world is putting an emphasis on national opens at the moment. And so it would be pretty cool if you could couple the Irish, the Scottish and the British 3 consecutive weeks and try and get the best players in the world to play in the wind and on links courses, and really promote that as the grass court season to go alongside Wimbledon. So yeah, I think there's there's different swings. The Florida swing's a different kind of style of golf, and then there's the Pacific Northwest swing, and then there's the Northeast swing with different styles of golf. All that. So the desert golf in the start of the year in Palm Springs and in Phoenix. So on the PGA Tour, they've had all sorts of different. The Middle Eastern swing that the European Tour sees to have at the start of the year. Can they get all of those schedules to merge somehow and try and encourage the best players to play all those different styles of golf at different times through the year?
Do you reckon there's enough variance on the continent of America though?
Yeah. I think playing desert golf is completely different to playing traditional northeast golf.
Right.
Country
club sort of stuff.
There's different markets that the tour don't currently go to that have got awesome golf, and then the talk of having the Tour Championship as a match play shootout.
Whoa.
Which means then they don't have to have a full field playing 72-hole stroke play and signing a scorecard. You can just play maybe Cypress Point, maybe Pine Valley, maybe Chicago. So those sorts of things have been talked about. There's just feels like there's a whole shuffling of different schedules at the moment, and the trickle down to that is going to be the PGA Tour Australasia. The events down here, Aussie Open's kind of on a upswing again. PGA Tour has said they're going to get behind it in some way or form. Seems like just about all the top players in the world now are saying they want to come down and play the Aussie Open at some stage. How does the Aussie PGA fit into that? And then how does the New Zealand Open on the other side of Christmas fit into all of that? Will be really interesting to see. We've got the Live Tour and everyone doesn't know kind of what the future of that holds. So feels like all of these tournaments will be going through a period of change. Some of it will be for the good. Some events won't come off so well.
Right, so back to, okay, so you reckon Scotty's going to win? What number?
I haven't looked at the forecast, and links golf is all about the forecast,
Yeah.
really, and if you get on the right side of the draw. Scoring tends to be maybe a little bit more forgiving at Birkdale. I don't know, feels like 10 under or something like that would be a good score, good winning score. Weather will determine it. It's final major of the year now, so we went through a period of
I know
time
it feels
there.
crazy to think July we're done with all the majors.
Yeah, it was saying that the Open went through a period of time there where we had quite a lot of first-time winners or new major championship winners, and then Scotty just kind of wiped everyone's face at Royal Portrush last year. So he hasn't really shown a sign, even though he missed the cut at the Renaissance. It doesn't feel like he's backed away from that.
Yeah.
So he'll be, he's odds on to win. He's like Will Jordan, isn't he? Just about as soon as he's on the paddock, he's probably odds on, just dotted in the corner.
Yeah,
So
he's a good time. He's a good try scorer.
So, yeah, I mean, it's probably Scotty, Rory probably next, and then the field. Everyone probably falls into the...
Do you reckon, with it being the most American style, that the Americans should have the best chance to be up the top?
Like O'Meara's played well there. That's where Baker Finch won his Open. Harrington won their year. He's Irish, but he's played a lot of golf in the States. And then Spieth won there the last time round. So it kind of feels like... it's a good spot for a non-European player to maybe pick up an Open.
Cool. And talk about the one more score. ABs versus Italy tonight. What's it looking like?
It's going to be an All Blacks win, but I don't think it's going to be by as many points as everyone thinks. The Azuri got held up by the Japanese last week, and so, but I sense that the Italians are going to be a little bit.
Trending. They beat the Irish last year. They beat the Scottish last year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a bit more of a handful than we think. And the second week around for the All Blacks, you'd think they'll probably get a few things sorted, but some things might be a little bit more challenging too.
Righto, give me a number then.
35-12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see if that eventuates. Righto.